Hi, my name is Stephanie Stint, and this is my presentation for Module 5, Understanding My Community. I chose to do this presentation for the actual community that my own kids go to school in and that I actually live in. I don't teach in this particular community. And Republic County is the name of the school that's actually situated in the town of Belleville, Kansas. And so my presentation will be talking about the community of Belleville itself, which is where the school is located. I found this activity to be very enlightening and interesting to really dig into and find out the intricacies of the community and learn about why it's so important for administrators to understand the ins and the outs and all of those details about the community structures, and in order to best communicate with the community and build good relationships with them. So first of all, we'll start with the customs and traditions. In Belleville, they have very traditional and conservative values. They're extremely community oriented. They always rally around other families and those who are struggling or sick. They never hesitate to raise money for charities or those who need extra help. There's a multitude of community organizations, and there's a large participation for those community organizations as well. The community itself is actually extremely supportive of the school. When you go to school events, whether they're sporting events or academic events or whatever, musical events, the bleachers are full of participants and spectators at those events, and they are, like I said, extremely supportive of the school. Actually, the Republic County Band is actually a bright spot of the school itself, and every few years, because they're a very good band, they're asked to march in a well-known parade. This year they marched in the Fiesta Bowl parade, and a couple years ago they marched at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade in Chicago, and the community never hesitates to help raise money and funds to send all of the kids to those parades. So it's definitely something that everyone's very proud of. As far as social class structures, those pretty much center around your family. You know, if your family's been in the community for a long time and you have roots here, that's part of social class structures. Church organizations and your relationships with others in your church, because there are a lot of church activities also. And also your economic level, of course, that's probably not unusual. The superintendent, the school board, those school leaders, they do affect the policy and the curriculum, but the community really isn't considered part of that decision-making or a decision-making stakeholder. And in general, I would say Belleville is more slow to change and adapt to any kind of change. Broad scale. There's things like infrastructure changes and things like that, but not really wanting to have a big impact on the community itself and the culture itself. They have a lot of pride in their small town, and they want to keep it that way. Here's the population characteristics, some of the demographics you can see about the education level. 93% are high school graduates, about 20% have a bachelor's degree or higher than that. And I found it really interesting that the age level, the distribution of ages, actually 50% are above the age of 45, and I think of that 25% might have been above age 65. So we do have an aging population. That may suggest, according to our school and community relations book, that may be less of a demand for educational quality, and I think I've kind of seen parts of that around the community as well. Some of our major economics are agriculture, of course. That's not unusual either in Kansas towns. Education or healthcare, kind of the three big areas there. And we have 98% white population, so we don't have a lot of diversity, and we'll talk a lot about that. We do have population stability, meaning people who are here tend to continue to live here. Actually, there's quite a few kids that once they leave, they end up coming back to continue to work on the family farm or in their family business. Actually, in Belleville, there's a lot of communication channels. People always seem to know what's going on in the community. there's a wide range of ways to reach community members, and they are well utilized. And again, I think not only is this a strong community, but a strong communication about what's going on. We have a newspaper called the Belleville Telescope. It comes out every week. Still very strong for a small town. We're fortunate to have that. Of course, social media is up and coming, and different organizations have Facebook pages, and you can follow that. And if you're, I know our kids often have sports, Facebook pages, so we can keep track on practices and all of the things that change and go on. We have a radio station that not only plays music, but definitely broadcasts the sporting events so that those who can't attend the sporting events can listen to it. And we have obviously school newsletters, and they have a calling system so that we're informed of changes in the schedules. I think a nice communication channel here in Belleville is there's many different gathering places where people go to have coffee and visit and talk, and it's a way to find out more about the community and also kind of pick up on what's going on. Finally, we have Channel 12, which is a place where people can post about community events and again, the things that are going on. There's just so many community groups, as I mentioned before, to even talk about all of them. But as you can see, as I mentioned before, they don't really have an influence on policy or curriculum in the schools. They don't really dominate school politics, but they do a lot of fundraising. They do a lot of community service. They are more than happy to help out when needed for the school. Like I said, there's a lot of community groups here, and so you can see that that community is very important to most people in Belleville, and they try to take a strong interest in their community. One thing I wanted to point out was the Healthcare Foundation specifically. They do a lot of work with recruiting physicians into the community, so we're also very fortunate to have high-quality healthcare, high-quality hospital, clinic, dentists here in Republic County. The Economic Development Corporation is also involved in giving seminars on small business development, helping people understand how to write business plans, and really focused on preserving our downtown area. As far as the leadership in Belleville, these leaders do pretty much represent the norms of the community. You obviously have your county government and your city council, and they influence what happens at the county and city levels, the decisions and the actions that are taken. You have your businessmen, your bankers, and your farmers, and they really do represent the norms and the opinions of most people in the community. A lot of people want bankers on their boards and attorneys on their boards too, because they can give legal and financial advice. The school board members are also known as leaderships in the community, well known by many people in the community. And except for school board members, again, I don't know how much influence any of them have on school policy, because everyone has their own interests right now. They don't really realize that they can be decision makers outside of actually going to school board members. The characteristics of the community leaders, basically, of course, people who are willing to do it and people who have time. But past that, as mentioned before, these people are widely known in the community, mostly because their families have been in the community for a long time. They've been well established in the community. They have roots in the community. They're knowledgeable about the community. They know a lot of people, and they know the structure of the community. They possess a wide range of knowledge, as I mentioned before, from bankers to businessmen to farmers to attorneys, and everyone brings their expertise to whatever group they're participating in. And the school board in particular becomes that conduit through which others in the community can express their opinions about the school. The economic conditions, again, those mainly are agriculture, small businesses. We do have 2 manufacturing plants here in Belleville. Healthcare and schools are the big economic organizations. Of course, those are pretty stable jobs. We don't see a lot of flux, incoming or outgoing jobs. Wages don't seem to be increasing much, but the jobs are there and they're staying there right now. We do know that property values and taxes will be going up, and again, as administrators, it's important to pay attention to that because it will determine, the financial support for schools. And about the political structure, again, taxes at state and local levels are spent on education, so it is by that fact alone that there's some politics to that. In Belleville, property taxes have gone up probably about 30% in the last 3 years, so that's quite a big change, and most people in the community understand why that is, and haven't been too upset by that. And of course, the school board and the superintendent being that political structure when we actually talk about decisions that are affecting schools, and they are definitely in tune with the political process at the state and local levels. Social tensions, again, because there's so little diversity in Belleville, there's really not any discrimination among minorities or cultural differences. That's the good thing. Our kids not having that access to differences is kind of difficult. But there doesn't seem to be no economic rivalry or social class differences to any great extent. The one social tension that I could think of was there was a bond issue that didn't pass recently because there were farmers that felt they were going to have to pay more than their fair share because obviously it only affected property taxes on land ownership. So there was a little bit of tension around that issue. But for the most part, not a whole lot of social tensions. Extra sources of information, of course, administrators can view school records and survey the public. And there are social media sites as well, Twitter, Facebook, and then school websites. And many of the organizations that I researched had their own websites as well, so you could go on and see what supports they provide, what their organization was about. The Chamber of Commerce obviously would have a directory or something for what those organized groups are. And of course, you can access the school board meeting minutes so that you can hear what issues are discussed and those that are facing the school and the community. The power structures themselves. Really, I think it boils down to the city council and others who have, again, the family background. If you've lived here your whole life, you develop relationships with people you that are thinking like you and are like-minded like you. And so when you develop those relationships and those friendships, a lot of times you can get things on your agenda move forward. School board, obviously having that vested interest in their school, they do have the power to exert authority on school policies. And knowing the multicultural issues, again, because there's very little diversity, it was really difficult for me to think of some of the multicultural issues that might come up other than, sometimes at Christmas there's somebody doesn't participate in the holiday program because of religious reasons, or they wonder why we have to have cheese pizza on Friday during Lent or something like that. But other than that, if you remember the demographics being 98% white, pretty much, everybody's got a very consistent culture. Knowing the power structure, again, I couldn't say that there would be any alignment with political parties from those power structure entities. And there doesn't seem to be any decisions made through that system of rewards and punishments that were mentioned. So it doesn't really happen here that I could see or that I know about. But I did think that there should be a well-implemented plan for school community relations. By doing this project, I could see that there seemed to be a separation in some regards as far as how the community can be a part of the decision-making process at the school, and that the relations can be more bidirectional rather than, it could be an improvement to the way it is now. And measuring public opinion, again, I know there was a survey that had gone out, but there's other ways in the community to get that opinion, which is listening at community gatherings and meetings, taking part in the community groups, and site council, which is what most communities have. And finally, the public opinion surveys. We did get an emailed survey, but I'm not sure what has been done to address the concerns and issues from that survey. So it would be helpful if they would communicate what actions have been taken, which could be part of a communication plan to be developed. So thank you for listening to my presentation. It's obviously important to know about your community so you can communicate most effectively as an administrator